I think for every sex offender who's trying to reintegrate into society, the first thing is to remember life is not over. Although he may be stigmatized by some, he does not have to carry a permanent stigma in his own mind, and that his life can be far better than it ever was before. The reason this site is so important to victims of sexual criminality is twofold. First of all, it often helps the victim put an end to the entire cycle, because the victim, at least 30% of my clients, have formerly been victimized as children. So for them, their offending and their acting out was something that resulted from a previous victimization that was never treated. They never received any significant counseling. They never got the coping skills they needed to evolve sexually into normal and healthy human beings. So for victims, it's extremely important in that sense. But it's also important for those who never go on to offend, for the vast majority of victims who go on to have great lives, and for those who are struggling with the fear of being victimized again, or of having their own children victimized. If we can help offenders truly integrate into society, not really reintegrate, because most of them never were part of society. They were faking it. They might have gotten married, they might have had jobs, but all of the indicators and all of the statistics we have indicate that sex offenders typically struggle with career. They are 5 times more likely to be unemployed than the average person in our community. Sex offenders struggle with relationships. They are vastly more likely to be lonely and alone at the time of their offense. And if they are married, their relationships are often fragmented and distorted by a lack of genuine intimacy. These are men who typically have no friends in their life. And if we understand that and we begin to help them and reintegrate them into society and help them to develop a career, give them the permission to get a job and not make it so hard, if we help them by teaching them the skills they need to develop friendships, and if we facilitate their learning the intimacy skills that would result in loving relationships, that man has far more to lose than he could ever gain by committing another sexual crime. The vast majority of offenders, of course, we know statistically, don't reoffend, even if they're never treated. According to federal statistics, only about 5.4% of offenders reoffend over a 3-year period following release from jail. Well, that number drops nearly in half with the result of counseling. So we have a huge percentage of people who are doing very, very well. In fact, the rate of sexual criminality for sex offenders who've gone through treatment is only slightly higher than that of offenders in other areas of criminal behavior, like stealing or muggings or bank robbery and that sort of thing, arson. The difference between the two groups is really not all that much. So we might as well, if we're going to hate sex offenders, we might as well just go back to hating all felons and not understand any of them. Victims have a vested interest in preventing sexual criminality, and helping sex offenders to not reoffend is the best way to do that.